There is a book that does not arrive when you search for it. It arrives when you are finally the frequency it can find. You have probably felt this before, even if you never named it that way. A moment when something reached you, a piece of writing, a teaching, a passage, a single sentence, and you knew with a certainty that bypassed logic that this was not accidental, that this had been waiting, that something in you had to become what it became before this could land. And you were right. Not poetically right. Not metaphorically right. Right in a way that has a precise quantum mechanical explanation. And today, I am going to walk you through every layer of it, because there is a phenomenon happening in your life right now that most people never understand, and the misunderstanding costs them everything. They spend years searching for the thing that will change them, reaching for wisdom they are not yet tuned to receive, wondering why the right knowledge hasn't found them yet. And the answer is not that the knowledge is hidden from them. The answer is that their field has not yet become the signal that the knowledge can recognize. The book in the title of this transmission is real. It is not a single physical object. It is a category of encounter, a class of arrival that only becomes possible when your personal energy field reaches a specific threshold of coherence. Call it the book of your readiness. Call it the teaching that your aura had to earn the frequency to receive. Call it the moment when what you have been becoming finally becomes visible to what has been waiting for you. Today, we are going to explore the quantum mechanics of why certain wisdom only arrives at certain moments. What your energy field has to do with the timing of those arrivals. What it means to be chosen at the quantum level, and why that word is not religious, but scientific. And what is actually happening in your field right now that is making this particular transmission possible for you. Because you did not find this by accident. Your field called it. Let's begin with something you need to understand about how your aura interacts with information. Your personal energy field, the electromagnetic field generated primarily by your heart and secondarily by your nervous system, is not a passive thing. It is not simply a glow that surrounds you and does nothing. It is a broadcasting and receiving instrument simultaneously. The Heart Math Institute has spent decades measuring this field with precision. The heart generates an electromagnetic field that extends approximately 3 to 4 feet beyond the surface of the body in every direction. This field contains encoded information. It carries the rhythmic patterns of your heart rate variability, the coherence or incoherence of your nervous system, the emotional tone of your inner state, and something even more remarkable. It carries what researchers call emotional information, specific frequency signatures that correspond to specific internal states that can be detected by other people's nervous systems and by sensitive instruments at measurable distances. This field is not decorative. It is functional. It is doing something at every moment. And here is what most people do not know about it. This field is also a filter. Not a filter in the metaphorical sense of only noticing what you are looking for, though that is also true. A filter in the literal electromagnetic sense. Your field, depending on its coherent state, is capable of resonating with certain frequencies of information and not others. When your field is in a state of low coherence, fragmented, contracted, running the frequencies of fear or lack or chronic stress, it literally cannot resonate with certain categories of wisdom. Not because those categories are withheld, because your field cannot form the standing wave that would allow that information to be received, integrated, and recognized as real. This is why you can read the same book twice and have two completely different experiences. This is why a teaching that meant nothing to you at 23 becomes the most important thing you have ever encountered at 37. The words did not change. Your field did. The book only appears when God knows you are ready. And by God, by the quantum field, by the intelligence that organizes reality around coherent signals. What is meant is this: the teaching only lands when your electromagnetic signature has reached the frequency it requires for reception. That is not mysticism. That is resonance physics applied to the most important dimension of your life. Now let me show you what readiness actually is at the field level, because this is where the real revelation begins. If this is landing for you, here is something I want to share. Have you spent years trying to feel lit up again? Visualizations, affirmations, vibration work, and the light still won't hold? Every one of those methods is telling you to push harder, do more, add another technique. It's not working, because the issue isn't that you don't have enough light. 6 specific patterns are sitting on top of it. They're called the frequencies of forgetting. The remembering field, a quantum guide to returning to the light. You forgot you were carrying walks through all 5 parts of getting those patterns off you. Every tool you used tried to add more light. This one lifts what's been sitting on the light you already carry. The longer you wait, the harder they get to clear. So go open it tonight. The link is in the pinned comment below. Now, back to the thread we were following. Most people think readiness is a mental state. They think it means they have studied enough, suffered enough, grown enough, decided enough. They think readiness is an achievement of the intellect or the will. And this is precisely why so many people who are intellectually ready for transformation do not receive it. Because readiness is not a mental state. Readiness is a field state. Readiness at the quantum level is coherence. Coherence is a specific condition of your heart's electromagnetic field in which the rhythmic patterns of your heartbeat become ordered, smooth, and synchronized with your breathing and your nervous system. When this happens, the frequency output of your field becomes what physicists call a coherent wave. A wave that has a consistent, organized, self-reinforcing pattern rather than a chaotic, fragmented one. A coherent field is, in measurable terms, a more powerful field. It extends further. It interacts more strongly with other fields. It can form resonant connections with external sources of information that an incoherent field simply cannot access. Think of it this way. An incoherent field is like a radio with bad reception, static, fragments, broken signals. A coherent field is like a perfectly tuned receiver locked onto a clean frequency. The broadcast has always been there. The question is whether your instrument can receive it. Readiness is when your instrument becomes coherent enough to receive what has always been broadcasting. And this is where the word chosen becomes scientific rather than theological. When the quantum field, when the organizing intelligence of reality, when the accumulated wisdom of human transformation encoded in books and teachings and encounters, when any of that reaches you at the exact moment your field becomes coherent enough to receive it, you are not chosen by favoritism. You are chosen by resonance. Your field emitted a signal. The wisdom matched that signal. The encounter became possible. The choosing is mutual. The choosing is quantum. The choosing is the moment your frequency and the frequency of what was waiting for you finally overlap. You have been chosen before. You will recognize it when I describe it. It is the moment you picked up a book you had owned for 3 years and suddenly could not put it down. It is the moment a conversation you had heard versions of a dozen times finally cracked something open in you that had never moved before. It is the moment a single sentence arrived and reorganized everything. It is the moment you felt, without being able to explain it, that something had been waiting for this moment, that the timing was not random, that something larger than coincidence was operating. You were right. Your field had reached the coherence threshold. The resonance became possible. The encounter was assembled by quantum mechanics, not luck. Now, I want to take you deeper into what your field has been doing to get you here, because this is the part that most people miss entirely. The journey to readiness is not a straight line of growth. It is a field progression, and it has specific stages that are measurable in terms of what your aura is broadcasting at each one. The first stage is what we might call contracted broadcasting. This is the state most people live in for much of their lives without knowing it. The field is active because the field is always active, but it is broadcasting from a state of chronic, low-level contraction. The nervous system is in a mud but persistent activation state. The heart rate variability patterns are irregular and fragmented. The emotional baseline is a mixture of low-grade anxiety, habitual worry, and the dull ache of unlived potential. In this state, the field is broadcasting a signal that the quantum field reads as not yet coherent, not yet stable, not yet able to hold what is coming. And so, what comes is more of what the field is already broadcasting. More situations that confirm the anxiety, more encounters that reinforce the sense of lack, more evidence that the thing you are reaching for is not quite within reach. This is not punishment. This is resonance. The field gets back what it sends out, because that is how electromagnetic interaction works. The second stage is what I call the fracture point. This is the moment, or the period, often months long, when the contracted field can no longer sustain itself. Something breaks open. A loss. A confrontation with a truth you had been avoiding. A period of forced stillness. A crisis that removes the structures you had been using to keep the contraction comfortable and hidden. The fracture point feels like destruction. From the field perspective, it is preparation. The old coherence pattern, the one organized around fear and protection and smallness, is being dismantled to make room for a new one. This is the stage most people interpret as failure. They look at the fracture and conclude that they were wrong about themselves, wrong about their path, wrong about what they were becoming. And so they contract further, tightening the field, trying to protect what is left. But the fracture is not failure. The fracture is the field reorganizing. It is the moment before a new coherence pattern can emerge, and it requires exactly what it feels like: the willingness to not know, to not have the answer, to stand in the dissolution and not run from it. The third stage is what I call the quiet expansion. This is the stage that often goes unrecognized because it is subtle. The fracture has passed, the acute pain has softened, and something begins to happen in the field that is difficult to name, but unmistakable when you feel it. A quality of spaciousness, a sense, not of having arrived, but of having more room. The nervous system begins to settle into longer periods of genuine calm. The heart rate variability patterns begin to show more coherence, more regularity, more of the smooth wave pattern that HeartMath researchers associate with what they call the coherent heart state. The field begins to extend further. The broadcast begins to clarify. In this stage, you begin to notice that things reach you differently. Conversations that would have slid past you before now land with unusual depth. Ideas that would have seemed abstract now feel personally relevant. Books you have passed over for years suddenly seem to be calling you. This is not imagination. This is your field becoming coherent enough to resonate with a wider range of frequencies. The receiving instrument is being tuned. The fourth stage is what readiness actually feels like from the inside. And I want to describe it precisely because you may be in it right now. And if you are, you need to know what it means. Readiness does not feel like certainty. That is the most common misunderstanding. People expect readiness to feel like confidence, like having all the answers, like standing on solid ground with a clear map. Readiness actually feels like a particular quality of open alertness, like being very still and very awake at the same time, like having released the need to control the form of what is coming while being completely available to receive it. Like a kind of luminous patience that is not passive, but deeply, actively receptive. Your field in this state is broadcasting something very specific. It is broadcasting availability. It is broadcasting coherence without agenda. It is broadcasting the frequency of I am ready for what is true, not what is comfortable. And the quantum field, which responds to signals rather than wishes, reads that broadcast and begins assembling the encounters, the teachings, the books, the moments that match it. This is when the book appears. This is when you are chosen. If this transmission is landing in your field, if you can feel it moving through you, rather than simply past you. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe so this work can keep finding the people whose fields are ready for it. Now let me tell you about two people. Their names are Mara and Elias, and their stories are going to show you something about field readiness that all the science in the world cannot show you quite as clearly as a human life can. Mara had been searching for 20 years. She had read hundreds of books on spiritual growth, personal development, quantum consciousness, energy healing, and every adjacent field she could find. She attended seminars. She sat with teachers. She meditated, sometimes daily, sometimes in long, intense retreats. She had accumulated more knowledge about transformation than most people encounter in a lifetime. And yet, she was not transformed. She knew this. She felt it. There was a quality of restlessness underneath all the seeking, a low vibration of anxiety that never quite went away, no matter how much she understood, no matter how many practices she completed, no matter how many teachers told her she was on the right path. What Mara did not know, what she could not see from inside her own field, was that she was seeking from contraction. Every book she picked up was picked up with a subtle but powerful undercurrent of fear. The fear that she was not enough. The fear that she was missing something essential. The fear that if she stopped searching, she would be confronted with an emptiness she could not survive. The seeking was not coming from genuine curiosity or genuine openness. The seeking was coming from a field that was broadcasting, "I am not yet whole," and reaching for anything that might fix that. And so, nothing fixed it. Not because the teachings were wrong, because her field could not receive them in the way they needed to be received. She was reading words about wholeness through a filter of brokenness, and the filter transformed everything it touched. The most luminous teachings became, in her hands, more evidence of how far she had to go. The most powerful practices became, in her experience, more ways to measure her inadequacy. She was, without knowing it, using the search for radiance to reinforce the belief that she did not yet have it. This is one of the most common and most invisible forms of field contraction. The spiritual search that is actually a spiritual avoidance. The seeking that is organized around the premise of lack rather than the premise of discovery. Mara's fracture point came in the form of a loss she did not expect and could not manage. Someone she loved left her life in a way that removed every structure she had built her identity around. And for the first time in 20 years of searching, she stopped. Not because she chose to, because she had nothing left to search with. The seeker in her went quiet. The accumulated knowledge went quiet. The restless reaching went quiet. And in that silence, something happened that she had never experienced in 2 decades of deliberate practice. She felt her own field, not as a concept, not as something she had read about, as a direct, undeniable, physical sensation of warmth and presence radiating from her chest outward into the space around her. It was not dramatic. It was not a vision or a revelation. It was simply the feeling of her own electromagnetic field, her own heart's broadcast, becoming perceptible to her for the first time because she had finally stopped overriding it with the noise of seeking. She sat with that feeling for a long time, days, then weeks. She did not pick up a book. She did not attend a seminar. She simply sat with the sensation of her own radiance, which had been there the entire time, broadcasting the whole time, and which she had never been still enough, or quiet enough, or coherent enough to actually feel. And then one morning, a book arrived, not from a search. She was not looking. A friend left it on her table, casually, without ceremony, not even recommending it particularly, just leaving it there. And Mara picked it up and read the first page and felt something she had never felt in 20 years of deliberate seeking. Recognition. Not learning. Recognition. The sense that this was not new information arriving. This was a mirror being held up to something she already was. The book had not changed. The teaching in it was not new. It had existed for years. But Mara had not been the frequency it required until this moment. Her field, finally coherent, finally quiet, finally broadcasting from genuine openness rather than fear-driven seeking, was now capable of receiving what had always been available. She was chosen, not by the author, not by fate, by resonance. I want to pause here and ask you something from that same place of genuine openness. Has there been a moment in your own life when you felt your field shift, when people around you responded to your energy differently, when you walked into a room and something in the atmosphere changed? Whatever that experience was, however subtle, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Your story is part of the collective field of this transmission. Now let me tell you about Elias. Elias was not a seeker. He was what you might call a dismisser. He had grown up in an environment where the language of energy and consciousness and personal fields was treated as either naive or fraudulent. And he had absorbed that dismissal so completely that it had become part of his identity. He was pragmatic. He was rational. He was, by his own description, someone who dealt in facts. But Elias had a problem that facts were not solving. He kept finding himself in the same situation, in different forms, with different people, in different contexts, but unmistakably the same situation, a pattern of being overlooked, of doing excellent work that somehow never quite reached the people who could recognize it, of being present in rooms where things were decided, and somehow never being the one the decision landed on. He was not failing. He was not struggling in any visible way, but he was invisible in a way that baffled him, because he could not find a rational explanation for it. What Elias could not see, because he did not have the framework for it, was that his field was broadcasting invisibility, not because he chose it, because it was the frequency he had been conditioned into. The dismissal he had learned to apply to anything that smelled like vulnerability or mysticism, or the admission that there was more to reality than what could be measured. That dismissal had become a full-body contraction, a way of making himself small enough to be safe from ridicule, a way of keeping his light at a level that could not be challenged. And the quantum field, reading his broadcast, was assembling exactly what the broadcast requested: situations in which he was not fully seen, because his field was not fully showing. Elias's fracture point was quieter than Mara's. It came as a question asked by someone he had just met, a question so simple it should not have stopped him the way it did. The question was, what would you do if you were not afraid of being wrong about yourself? He did not have an answer, and the absence of an answer unsettled him in a way that the question of a stranger had no right to. He turned it over for weeks. He could not dismiss it the way he dismissed everything else, because it had arrived at a moment when his defenses were down, when something in his field had briefly opened, and the question had slipped through. The weeks of turning it over were his quiet expansion phase. He was not doing anything dramatic. He was simply allowing a question to remain open rather than closing it with a quick, rational answer. And in the allowing, his field began to shift. The chronic, low-level dismissal began to soften, not because he had decided to believe anything new, but because he had stopped defending so hard against the possibility that there was something he did not know about himself. One day, he found himself in a library, not looking for anything in particular, and a book fell off a shelf. Literally fell. He picked it up because it was in his way. He read the back cover because he was standing there. He read the first chapter because something in the first paragraph used language from physics in a way that surprised him. He read the whole book in 2 days and then sat very still for a long time. The book was about the measurable electromagnetic field of the human heart. It was about heart math research. It was about the science of coherence. It was, in the language he had always required, the rational, empirical, measurable language, a complete description of everything his field had been doing without his knowledge or consent. He was not converted to mysticism. He was not suddenly spiritual in any way he would have recognized, but something in him that had been contracted for decades released, because he now had the framework to understand what had been happening in his field. And with that understanding came the possibility of something he had never considered: conscious participation in his own broadcast. The book did not fall off the shelf by accident. His field had reached the coherence threshold required to receive what that book contained. His field had become, through weeks of quiet questioning, coherent enough to resonate with the frequency of that information. And the quantum field, reading his signal, assembled the encounter. He was chosen by the same mechanism that chose Mara, by resonance. Both of them had been radiating their whole lives. Both of them had been broadcasting signals that the quantum field was reading and responding to. The difference was not intelligence, not sincerity, not even effort. The difference was field coherence. The difference was the specific frequency their aura was broadcasting at the moment the encounter became possible. And now I want to talk about you, because you are here. And being here is not neutral. Your field called this transmission. Something in your electromagnetic signature resonated with the frequency of this specific subject. The hidden book, the timing of arrival, the quantum mechanics of being chosen. And that resonance is the reason this is reaching you now. I want you to feel that for a moment before we go further, not as a compliment, as a data point. Your field is currently broadcasting something that resonated with this material, which means your field is currently at or approaching the coherence threshold that makes this kind of information receivable, which means something has been happening in your field, probably over the past months, possibly over the past years, that has been moving you toward this moment. What has been changing in you? Not what have you been doing? What has been changing in the quality of your field? Has there been a softening of something that used to be rigid? Has there been a release of something you held for a long time? Has there been a period of fracture of the kind we described with Mara and Elias that felt like loss, but was actually reorganization? Has there been a quality of quiet expansion, a sense of more room, a sense of being less defended, less contracted, less in need of controlling the form of what is coming? If any of that resonates, your field is telling you something important. It is telling you that you are in the stage of readiness, that the coherence threshold is approaching, that the book, whatever form it takes for you, the teaching, the encounter, the transmission, the moment of recognition, is assembling itself around your signal right now. And there is something specific you can do to accelerate that assembly, not by reaching harder, by becoming more coherent, by consciously tuning your field to the frequency of receivership. Let me give you the practice now. This is called the coherent reception practice, and it is specific to this subject. This is not a general meditation. This is a field calibration designed to move your aura into the specific state of coherence that makes you receivable to the wisdom that is assembling itself around you. Find a position where you are comfortable and your spine is relatively upright, not rigid. Upright in the way of someone who is both relaxed and alert, both at rest and available. Place one hand on your chest, directly over your heart, not as a gesture, as a physical act of directing your attention to the source of your electromagnetic field. Your hand is touching the primary generator of your personal energy broadcast. Feel the warmth of your own hand. Feel the slight pressure. Feel, if you can, the pulse beneath your palm. Now begin to breathe in a specific way. Inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 5. Not a rushed 5. A genuine, slow, deliberate 5. As you inhale, imagine the breath moving directly into the space behind your hand, into the center of your chest, into the heart itself. Then exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 5. As you exhale, imagine the breath moving outward from your heart in all directions, expanding your field with each release. Do this 5 times before you continue reading. 5 slow, heart-directed breaths. In for 5, out for 5, both movements centered in the chest. When you have done that, something will have shifted in your field. Not dramatically, subtly. The heart rate variability patterns will have begun to regularize. The nervous system will have begun to shift from sympathetic activation toward parasympathetic rest. The electromagnetic field generated by your heart will have begun to become more coherent, more organized, more like the smooth wave pattern that heart math researchers associate with the optimal reception state. Now, with your hand still on your heart, I want you to do something that might feel unusual. I want you to speak silently, internally, directly to your own field. Not to your mind, not to your thoughts, to the field itself, the radiating electromagnetic presence that surrounds you right now. Say this internally and mean it as a signal, not a wish. I am coherent. I am available. I am ready to receive what is true, not what is comfortable. What is mine is already assembling. I am the frequency it requires. Say it slowly. Feel it in your chest, rather than just thinking it in your head. Let it move outward from your heart into your field as a broadcast, not an affirmation. You are not trying to convince yourself of something. You are transmitting a signal. You are telling the quantum field, in the precise language it understands, the language of frequency, that your instrument is tuned and ready. Now release your hand. Let your arms rest. And for 30 seconds, simply sit in the quality of your own field. Notice the warmth. Notice the subtle sense of extension beyond your body. Notice the quality of alert stillness that coherence produces. This is what readiness feels like from the inside. This is the state your field needs to be in for the book to appear. This is the frequency of being chosen. Now let me take you into the deeper mechanics of why certain wisdom is hidden until you are ready, because there is a layer of this that goes beyond individual field coherence and into something even more extraordinary. There is a concept in quantum physics called non-locality. It describes the phenomenon by which two particles, once they have interacted, remain connected regardless of the distance between them. What happens to one is instantly reflected in the other, not through any signal traveling through space, but through a connection that exists outside of space in the way we normally understand it. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. Physicists have confirmed it experimentally. It is real, it is measurable, and it has implications for your personal energy field that most people have never considered. Because your field has been interacting with other fields your entire life. Every meaningful encounter you have ever had, every teacher who moved you, every book that cracked you open, every conversation that changed the way you understood yourself, left a quantum entanglement in your field, a connection that does not dissolve with time or distance, a thread of resonance that remains active, that continues to be part of your electromagnetic signature, that continues to pull you toward certain frequencies and certain encounters. This means that the book that is waiting for you is not waiting in a neutral, disconnected way. It is already entangled with your field. The connection already exists. The resonance is already established at the quantum level. What has to happen is not the creation of the connection. What has to happen is your field reaching the coherence level at which the connection becomes perceptible, at which the resonance becomes strong enough to manifest as a physical encounter. The book is not hidden from you. It is entangled with you, and it is waiting for your field to become coherent enough to feel the pull. This is what people mean, in the deepest sense, when they say that certain things come to you when you are ready. It is not that the universe is withholding. It is not that you must earn the teaching through sufficient suffering or sufficient study. It is that the quantum connection already exists, and your readiness is the act of becoming coherent enough to feel it. And here is something even more precise about what that pull feels like, because I want you to be able to recognize it when it happens. When your field is approaching the coherence threshold that will allow a specific encounter to manifest, you will often notice a quality of pull or draw that is different from ordinary curiosity or interest. Ordinary curiosity is generated by the mind. It is responsive to novelty, to what seems interesting or useful or relevant to current concerns. The pull I am describing is generated by the field. It is not a thought. It is a sensation, a draw that feels more like being called than like being interested. A quality of recognition before the fact, as if you already know that what you are being drawn toward is important before you have any rational basis for that knowing. You have felt this before. The book you picked up without knowing why. the person you felt compelled to speak to in a situation where you would not normally speak to anyone. The path you turned down for no reason you could articulate. The conversation you stayed in past the point where logic said you were done. These were not random. These were your field responding to quantum entanglement. These were the moments when your coherence was high enough that the connection that already existed at the non-local level became strong enough to influence your behavior in the physical world. The quantum field was choosing you through your own field, through the instrument of your own coherence. Now I want to address something that I know is present in the field of anyone who has been on this kind of path for a while. The question of timing, the frustration of timing, the ache of feeling ready or believing yourself to be ready, and still not receiving what you have been reaching for. If you have been in that place, if you have felt the sincerity of your desire and the genuineness of your effort, and still found yourself waiting, I want to offer you something that is not consolation, but clarification. The field does not respond to the intensity of wanting. It responds to the coherence of being. These are not the same thing. In fact, they are often in opposition. The more intensely you want something, the more your field tends to broadcast the frequency of lack, the frequency of not yet having, the frequency of reaching from a contracted state. And the quantum field, reading that broadcast, assembles more of the reaching, more of the not yet having, more of the situation in which the thing remains just beyond reach. This is not cruelty. This is resonance. The field gives you what you are, not what you want. And if what you are, at the field level, is someone who is reaching desperately for something you do not have, the field will give you more of the experience of reaching desperately for something you do not have. The shift that changes this is not the shift from wanting less to wanting more, or from wanting more to wanting less. The shift is from wanting to being, from broadcasting the frequency of "I need this to arrive," to broadcasting the frequency of "I am already the field that this arrives into," from reaching to receiving, from contraction to coherence. And I want to be precise about what this shift requires, because it is not what most people think. It does not require detachment. The spiritual teaching of non-attachment is often misunderstood as not caring, as manufacturing a kind of emotional distance from what matters to you. That is not the shift. Detachment that is manufactured is still contraction. just a different kind. It is the contraction of suppression rather than the contraction of grasping. But it is still a contracted field. The shift is not from caring to not caring. The shift is from caring from fear to caring from wholeness. From broadcasting, "I need this because I am incomplete without it," to broadcasting, "I welcome this because I am already the field it belongs in." The desire remains. The investment remains. What changes is the frequency underneath the desire. What changes is whether the desire is rooted in lack or in coherence. A desire rooted in coherence is the most powerful creative signal your field can broadcast. It is a signal that says, "I am the frequency of what I am calling in, and I am available to receive it in whatever form the quantum field assembles it." That signal is what the book responds to. That signal is what the encounter responds to. That signal is what the moment of being chosen feels like from the inside. Let me go even deeper into the mechanics of what happens at the moment of reception. At the moment the book actually appears, because there is something happening in your field at that moment that is worth understanding precisely. When the coherence threshold is reached, and the quantum entanglement that has been building in your field becomes strong enough to manifest a physical encounter, something happens in your nervous system that is measurable and distinct. The heart rate variability pattern, which has been gradually becoming more coherent through the process we have been describing, reaches a specific configuration that HeartMath researchers call the coherent heart state. In this state, the heart, the brain, and the nervous system are synchronized in a way that produces a very specific quality of perception. Perception in the coherent state is different from perception in the ordinary state. It is more expansive. It takes in more information simultaneously. It is less filtered by prior assumptions and more open to what is actually present. It has a quality that people often describe as clarity, or presence, or aliveness, but which is actually a measurable neurological phenomenon. The brain's higher cortical functions are more fully integrated with the body's sensory information, producing a more complete and less distorted picture of reality. This is why the moment of receiving the book, the moment of the teaching landing, the moment of being chosen, has the quality it has. It is not just that the content is meaningful. It is that you are perceiving it in a state of coherence that allows you to take in its full dimensionality. The same words that would have slid past you in a contracted state now arrive with their full weight, their full implication, their full personal relevance, because your instrument is finally tuned to receive the full signal. And here is what happens after that moment, because this is the part that determines whether the reception becomes transformation or merely an interesting experience. The moment of coherent reception opens a window. The window is real, but it is not permanent by default. It is a period of heightened field coherence, during which the information that has arrived can be integrated into the deeper patterns of your field, can become part of your electromagnetic signature, can change what you broadcast going forward. But this integration requires something specific from you. It requires that you do not immediately return to the contracted state. Most people, when they receive a powerful teaching, feel the impact of it, and then, within hours or days, feel the familiar pull of the old patterns, the old fears, the old doubts, the old contracted broadcasting. And if they follow that pull, if they allow the field to contract back to its pre-reception state, the integration does not complete. The teaching remains as intellectual content, as something they know in their mind, rather than becoming something they are in their field. The integration requires that you stay in the coherent state long enough for the new information to become a new frequency, long enough for the field to reorganize around what has been received rather than around what was there before. This is why the days and weeks immediately following a significant reception are so important. This is why every great teaching tradition emphasizes the period of practice that follows the moment of insight. The insight is the reception. The practice is the integration. The practice is what allows the received frequency to become your broadcast rather than just your memory. And this is where the concept of the chosen takes on its fullest meaning. To be chosen is not a passive event. It is the beginning of an active process. The moment the book appears, the moment the teaching arrives, the moment the encounter assembles itself around your coherent signal, you are not simply the recipient of something. You are the beginning of something. You are the field that has now received a new frequency. And what you do with that frequency in the days and weeks that follow determines whether you become a new broadcast or simply a more informed version of the old one. The quantum field chose you because your coherence reached the threshold. Now the question is whether you choose to maintain that coherence, whether you choose to integrate what has arrived. Whether you choose to let the new frequency become your signal, rather than letting the old patterns reclaim the broadcast. This is the covenant of being chosen. Not a religious covenant, a quantum one. The field reached you when you were ready. Now you are asked to stay ready, to remain coherent, to let what has arrived actually change what you radiate. Because what you radiate going forward is what the next book will find. What you broadcast after the integration is what the next encounter will assemble around. The choosing is not a single event. It is a progressive deepening of coherence, a progressive clarification of signal, a progressive expansion of what the field can receive and what reality can assemble around it. You are not chosen once. You are chosen at each new threshold, and each threshold is reached by the same mechanism, coherence. Genuine, embodied, field-level coherence, not intellectual readiness, not spiritual ambition, not the intensity of desire, but the actual electromagnetic state of your heart and nervous system in the present moment. Now, I want to address something that comes up in the field of almost everyone who encounters this material, a question that is not always spoken, but is almost always present. The question is, what if I am not ready? What if, despite being here, despite feeling the pull of this material, despite the resonance I am experiencing, I am still not at the threshold? What if the book is still not close enough to arrive? And the answer to that question is the most important thing I will say in this entire transmission. The fact that you are asking it means you are closer than you think. The contracted field, the field that is genuinely far from the threshold, does not ask this question. The contracted field does not worry about whether it is ready. It is too busy maintaining its contraction, too busy broadcasting the frequencies of fear and lack and self-protection to have the spaciousness required to genuinely wonder about its own readiness. The question itself, the genuine, open, non-defensive question of whether you are ready, is a signature of a field that is already in the quiet expansion phase, already softening, already becoming more coherent, already approaching the threshold. Your worry that you are not ready is evidence that you are becoming ready. This is not a platitude. This is a field observation. The contraction does not question itself. Only the expanding field has the room to hold the question of its own readiness without immediately closing it with a defensive answer. The fact that you can sit with that question, that you can feel it without immediately resolving it, is itself a measure of your coherence. You are closer than you think, and the book is closer than you know. Let me tell you about the specific quality of the moment just before the book arrives, because if you know what it feels like, you will not miss it or dismiss it when it comes. In the hours or days immediately before a significant reception, before the teaching arrives, in whatever form it is going to take, your field often broadcasts a very specific quality that people rarely recognize for what it is. It is a quality of unusual openness combined with unusual stillness. Not the stillness of numbness or exhaustion, the stillness of completion. The sense that something has been released that you did not know you were holding. A quality of having arrived somewhere, not at a destination you can name, but at a place in yourself that feels more spacious than where you were before. This quality is often accompanied by a very subtle but unmistakable sense of anticipation, not the anxious anticipation of waiting for something you are afraid might not come. The quiet anticipation of someone who has set the table and knows that the guest is on the way. A sense of readiness that is not grasping, but open, not reaching, but available. If you have felt this quality recently, even briefly, even in moments that passed quickly, pay attention. Your field is broadcasting at or near the coherence threshold. The quantum entanglement is strengthening. The book is assembling itself around your signal. The encounter is approaching. And when it arrives, when it does arrive, in whatever form it takes, I want you to do something specific. I want you to pause before you engage with it, before you read the first page, before you enter the conversation, before you follow the pull. Wherever it is leading, I want you to take one breath, one slow, heart-directed breath, and say internally, I am ready to receive what is true. And then I want you to enter the encounter in the state of coherent reception we practiced earlier, with your field open, your nervous system settled, your heart broadcasting availability rather than need. Because how you enter the encounter determines how much of it you actually receive. The same book, entered in a state of coherent openness, will give you 10 times what it gives you when entered in a state of anxious grasping. The same teaching, received in a coherent field, will land in the deep layers of your electromagnetic signature and become part of your broadcast. The same encounter met with genuine availability rather than desperate need, will change not just what you know, but what you are. Enter the encounter as the field it was assembled for, because that is what you are. That is what has been building in you. That is what your coherence has been preparing. Now let me take you into something that I want to be careful to explain precisely, because it is the layer of this subject that people most often either skip past or misunderstand. It is the question of what the book is actually doing to your field when it arrives, not what it is doing to your understanding, what it is doing to your electromagnetic signature, because these are not the same thing, and the difference between them is the difference between a powerful experience and an actual transformation. When a teaching arrives in a coherent field, the information it carries does not simply enter your mind as new content. It enters your field as a new frequency. Here is what that means in precise terms. Your heart's electromagnetic field, as we established, carries encoded information. That information is not static. It is dynamic. It changes in response to your emotional state, your nervous system activation level, and your conscious and unconscious patterns of thought and belief. When a teaching that is precisely matched to your current coherence threshold arrives, it introduces a frequency that your field has not previously been able to hold. And because your field is now coherent enough to hold it, the frequency does not bounce off the way it would have in a contracted state. It enters. It resonates. It begins to reorganize the existing patterns of your field around itself. This is what people mean when they say a book changed their life. They do not mean it gave them new information, though it did that too. They mean it changed what they were broadcasting. It introduced a frequency into their field that their field then began to reorganize around. The book did not just inform them. It recalibrated them. It became part of their signal. And here is the extraordinary implication of that. After the integration, you are not the same broadcaster you were before the book arrived. You are broadcasting a signal that now contains the frequency of what you received, which means you are now entangled with the next level of wisdom, the next book, the next teaching, the next encounter, because your field, having integrated the new frequency, is now broadcasting at a higher coherence level, and the quantum field is reading that new signal and assembling what belongs to it. Every genuine reception accelerates the next one. Every book that lands in a coherent field and is integrated raises the coherence level of the field, which shortens the distance to the next threshold, which accelerates the arrival of the next encounter. This is not a linear progression. It is an exponential one. The more coherent your field becomes, the faster the entanglements that are already present in your field become perceptible, and the faster the encounters they represent can manifest. This is why people who have had one genuine transformational experience often describe the subsequent period of their lives as accelerated, as if time has changed, as if things that would have taken years to arrive are arriving in months, as if the field of their life has become more responsive, more alive, more generative. What has actually happened is that their coherence level has risen, and the quantum field is reading a stronger, cleaner signal, and assembling encounters that match it more rapidly. The book does not just change what you know, it changes what you attract. It changes what the field assembles around you. It changes the speed and the precision of the choosing. Now, I want to go somewhere with this that requires your full attention, because what I am about to describe is the mechanism that most people are completely unaware of. Even people who have been working with energy and field and quantum concepts for years. It is the mechanism by which the book finds you, rather than the other way around. And it operates in a way that is counterintuitive to almost everything we have been taught about how seeking and finding work. We have been taught, in almost every context, that finding requires searching. That if you want something, you must go and look for it. You must put in the effort, cover the ground, examine the options, and eventually, through diligence and persistence, locate what you were looking for. This model works reasonably well for objects in physical space. It does not work for wisdom that is entangled with your field. Because wisdom that is entangled with your field does not require you to find it. It requires you to become findable to it. The distinction is not semantic. It is operational. When you are in search mode, your field is broadcasting the frequency of I am looking, which is a frequency organized around absence, around the not yet having of what you are seeking. That frequency, as we have established, is a contracted frequency. It is the frequency of the reaching state. And the reaching state, whatever its intensity, does not accelerate the arrival of what is entangled with your field. It delays it, because it keeps the field in the contraction that prevents the entanglement from becoming perceptible. When you shift from search mode to reception mode, something fundamental changes in your broadcast. You stop transmitting the frequency of looking and start transmitting the frequency of available. You stop organizing your field around the absence of what you want and start organizing it around the presence of what you already are. And the quantum field, reading that shift, responds by making the entanglements that already exist in your field perceptible, by allowing the connections that were always there to become strong enough to manifest as encounters. The book finds you in reception mode. It cannot find you in search mode, because in search mode, your field is too contracted, too organized around its own seeking, to feel the pull of the entanglement that would lead you to it. This is the deepest practical implication of everything we have been discussing. The practice is not to search harder or smarter. The practice is to become more receivable, to become more coherent, to broadcast the frequency of available rather than the frequency of seeking, and to trust not as an article of faith, but as a field principle, that what is entangled with your field will find you when your field is coherent enough to feel the pull. The book is not waiting for you to find it. It is waiting for you to stop looking hard enough that it can reach you. Now let me bring in a layer of this that connects to something you have almost certainly experienced, but may never have had a framework for. It is the experience of the wrong book arriving at the right time, the teaching that seems, on the surface, to be about something completely different from what you needed, and yet somehow addresses exactly what you needed in a way that the directly relevant teaching never could. This happens because quantum entanglement does not operate through content categories. It operates through frequency. The book that is entangled with your field at a given moment of coherence is not necessarily the book that is most directly about your situation. It is the book that is vibrating at the frequency your field needs to encounter in order to move to the next level of coherence. The content is the vehicle. The frequency is the substance. And sometimes the frequency you need arrives in a completely unexpected vehicle. Mara's book, the one her friend left on the table, was not a book about loss or grief or rebuilding identity after dissolution. It was a book about something entirely different, something that on the surface had nothing to do with what she had just been through. But it was vibrating at the frequency of wholeness that her field had just become coherent enough to receive. And so it landed not as information about its nominal subject, but as a mirror of the frequency her field was just beginning to broadcast. The content was the door. The frequency was what walked through it. This is why you cannot predict the form the book will take. You cannot decide in advance what category it will belong to, what subject it will address, what tradition it will come from. The quantum field does not sort by category. It sorts by frequency. And the frequency your field needs next is not always the frequency you would choose if you were selecting from a menu. It is the frequency that corresponds to the specific next step in the coherence progression your field is actually on, which is not always the progression you think you are on. This is one of the reasons that the most transformative encounters so often arrive from unexpected directions. The conversation with a stranger at an airport, the book in the wrong section of the library, the documentary you watched by accident, the sentence in a novel that had nothing to do with your situation and yet reorganized everything. These were not accidents. They were quantum field navigation, your entanglement leading you through the pull of coherence to the frequency you needed in the vehicle it happened to be traveling in. Trust the pull even when you cannot see the relevance. Trust the draw even when it leads you somewhere you did not expect to go. Your field knows the frequency it needs. Your mind does not always know the form it will arrive in. Now, I want to address something that comes up in the field of almost everyone who encounters this material. A question that is not always spoken, but is almost always present. The question is, what if I am not ready? What if, despite being here, despite feeling the pull of this material, despite the resonance I am experiencing, I am still not at the threshold? What if the book is still not close enough to arrive? And the answer to that question is the most important thing I will say in this entire transmission. The fact that you are asking it means you are closer than you think. The contracted field, the field that is genuinely far from the threshold, does not ask this question. The contracted field does not worry about whether it is ready. It is too busy maintaining its contraction, too busy broadcasting the frequencies of fear and lack and self-protection to have the spaciousness required to genuinely wonder about its own readiness. The question itself, the genuine, open, non-defensive question of whether you are ready, is a signature of a field that is already in the quiet expansion phase, already softening, already becoming more coherent, already approaching the threshold. Your worry that you are not ready is evidence that you are becoming ready. This is not a platitude. This is a field observation. The contraction does not question itself. Only the expanding field has the room to hold the question of its own readiness, without immediately closing it with a defensive answer. The fact that you can sit with that question, that you can feel it without immediately resolving it, is itself a measure of your coherence. You are closer than you think, and the book is closer than you know. Now, I want to address the community dimension, because there is something about this subject that extends beyond the individual field and into something even more extraordinary. You are not the only field approaching a coherence threshold right now. There are people in your life, people in your extended community, people you have not yet met, whose fields are in various stages of the progression we have described. Some are in the contracted broadcasting phase, running the old patterns, not yet at the fracture point. Some are in the fracture itself, in the acute dissolution that feels like failure. Some are in the quiet expansion, softening and opening without fully understanding why. And some are right where you are, at or approaching the threshold, feeling the pull of something that is assembling itself around their signal. Your field interacts with all of these fields. This is not metaphorical. The electromagnetic fields of the people around you literally interact with your electromagnetic field. Heart math research has demonstrated that when two people are in close proximity, their heart rhythms can synchronize. Their fields can entrain to each other. The more coherent field tends to pull the less coherent field toward coherence, the way a strong signal can stabilize a weaker one. This means that your coherence is not just your own. It is a contribution to the collective field of everyone your aura touches. Every time you choose to maintain your coherence rather than contracting back into the old patterns, you are broadcasting a stabilizing signal into the fields of the people around you. Every time you enter an encounter in the state of coherent reception rather than anxious grasping, you are modeling a field state that other fields can entrain to. You are, in this sense, not just a receiver of wisdom. You are a transmitter of the field state that makes wisdom receivable. Your coherence is a gift to the collective. Your readiness is a contribution to the readiness of the whole. This is why the question of being chosen is never purely individual. The quantum field does not choose one person in isolation. It chooses a field that is embedded in a web of other fields, and the coherence that makes the choosing possible radiates outward from that field into the web. The book that arrives for you arrives not just for you. It arrives for everyone whose field is entangled with yours. The teaching that lands in your coherent field will, through the natural process of field interaction, begin to reach the fields around you, not through your words necessarily, though words are one vehicle, through your broadcast, through the simple fact of what your field is radiating after the integration. This is the deepest meaning of being chosen. You are chosen not just to receive. You are chosen to transmit, to become a node of coherence in the collective field, to be the person in whose presence other people's fields begin to soften and expand and approach their own thresholds. This is what the luminous people in your life have always been doing. The people who lit up rooms without trying. The people in whose presence you suddenly felt more yourself, more possible, more awake. They were not doing anything deliberate, necessarily. They were simply broadcasting from a coherent field. And your field was responding to the signal by moving toward coherence itself. They were being chosen, in the ongoing sense, at every moment, and their choosing was radiating outward into every field they touched. This is what you are becoming. This is what the threshold is for, not just to receive the book, to become the field that other books find, to become the presence that other fields entrain to become the person who, without trying, without even knowing it most of the time, is broadcasting the frequency of coherence into every room they enter and every field they touch. This is the full meaning of the title. The book only appears when God, when the quantum field, knows you are ready. And readiness is not just a personal achievement. It is a field state that has implications for everyone your aura touches. Your readiness is their possibility. Your coherence is their invitation. There is one more dimension of this that I want to give you before we move into the integration, because it is the dimension that most often goes unnamed, and yet is the one that carries the most weight in the lived experience of being chosen. It is what happens in the body, in the period between the fracture and the threshold. The specific physical experience of a field that is reorganizing itself and does not yet know what it is becoming. This period is uncomfortable in a way that is difficult to describe precisely, because it is not the acute discomfort of pain or loss. It is a subtler discomfort, the discomfort of being in between, of having released the old coherence pattern, the one organized around fear and protection, and the familiar, contracted broadcast, but not yet having settled into the new one, of being, in field terms, temporarily, without a dominant frequency, without the organizing signal that gives the field its shape and direction. In this period, The body often feels restless in a way that has no clear cause. There is a quality of agitation that is not anxiety exactly, more like the feeling of a system that is searching for its new equilibrium. Sleep can be disrupted, not by worry, but by a kind of aliveness that does not know where to settle. Appetite can shift. The social field can feel strange, as if the people and contexts that used to feel comfortable no longer quite fit. But the new ones have not yet arrived. There is often a quality of loneliness that is not about the absence of people, but about the absence of resonance. The old resonances no longer hold. The new ones have not yet formed. If you are in this period right now, I want you to know something that will help you stay in the expansion, rather than contracting back into the familiar. This discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that your field is between coherence patterns. It is the electromagnetic equivalent of the moment between the exhale and the next inhale, the moment of emptiness that is not absence, but preparation. The field is not broken. It is reorganizing. And the reorganization requires this period of in-between, this period of temporary formlessness before the new coherence pattern can establish itself. The single most important thing you can do in this period is resist the pull to fill the formlessness, the pull to reach for the old patterns, the old distractions, the old contracted broadcast, simply because it is familiar and the formlessness is not. The old patterns will feel like relief in the short term. In the field term, they are a contraction that delays the reorganization. Every time you fill the formlessness with the old frequency, you are postponing the emergence of the new coherence pattern that is trying to establish itself. Stay in the formlessness. Breathe into it. Put your hand on your heart and let the field do what it is doing. The new coherence is assembling itself. The new broadcast is finding its frequency. The book that belongs to the new pattern is approaching. And the only thing required of you in this period is what is most difficult: the willingness to remain open in the absence of certainty, to remain available in the absence of a clear signal, to remain in the expansion even when the expansion feels like nothing yet. The nothing is where the new frequency is born. The emptiness between coherence patterns is the most fertile field state your aura ever enters. It is the state in which the quantum entanglements that have been building in your field become most active, most ready to manifest, most close to to the surface. The book is nearest when you are in the formlessness. The encounter is most imminent when you are most willing to not know what form it will take. Stay there. Stay open. Stay available. The field is working. Let me give you the integration principle that will carry this transmission forward into your life, because a teaching that does not integrate is a teaching that does not transform. The integration principle for this transmission is this: stop reaching for the book and start becoming the field it finds. Every time you notice yourself in the reaching state, in the anxious seeking, in the grasping for the teaching or the encounter or the wisdom that will finally change everything, I want you to pause and redirect, not by suppressing the desire, not by manufacturing detachment, but by shifting the frequency underneath the desire from lack to coherence. Ask yourself, in that moment, what would it feel like to already be the field that this arrives into? Not to already have it, to already be the field it finds. What would your body feel like? What would your chest feel like? What would your breathing be like? What would the quality of your attention be? And then embody that. Breathe into it. Put your hand on your heart and broadcast it. Let your field shift from the frequency of reaching to the frequency of receiving, from the frequency of not yet to the frequency of already coherent and available. Do this practice every day, not as a ritual, as a field calibration, as a conscious act of tuning your instrument to the frequency of reception, because the more consistently you maintain the coherent receiving state, the shorter the distance between your current field state and the threshold at which the book appears. The book is already entangled with your field. The connection already exists at the non-local level. What you are doing with this practice is not creating the connection. You are becoming coherent enough to feel it. You are tuning the instrument to the frequency that the connection requires for manifestation. And one day, sooner than you currently believe possible, you will feel the pull, the specific, non-mental, field-level pull that is different from ordinary curiosity. The draw that feels like recognition before the fact. And you will follow it, not with anxious grasping, but with coherent availability. And what you find at the end of that pull will be the book, the teaching, the encounter, the moment. And you will know with a certainty that bypasses logic that this was not accidental, that this had been waiting, that something in you had to become what it became before this could land. And you will be right. Because you will have become the frequency it required. Because the quantum field will have read your signal and assembled the encounter around it. Because you will have been chosen in the precise, measurable, quantum mechanical sense of that word. And in that moment, I want you to remember this. You were always the field it was looking for. You were always the frequency it required. The only thing that had to happen was for you to stop dimming the coherence that was always there and let your field broadcast at the level it was always capable of. You don't become ready. You reveal the readiness that was always underneath the contraction. You don't earn the choosing. You become coherent enough to feel the entanglement that was always already there. The book was never hidden from you. It was waiting for the moment your field could receive it. That moment is not somewhere in the future. It is being assembled right now in your field by your coherence, by the quiet expansion that has been happening in you, by the fracture that reorganized you, by the reaching that finally softened into receiving. You are at the threshold. The book is close. Your field is broadcasting the frequency of readiness, and the quantum field is reading your signal. If this transmission has moved something in your field, consider returning to it in a quiet moment, in the stillness of early morning, or in the soft receptivity just before sleep, when the field is most open and the integration can go deepest. And if someone in your life is in their fracture point, in their quiet expansion, in that unnamed place of becoming, share this with them. When you send this to another field that is approaching its threshold, you are not simply forwarding a video, you are activating an awareness in them, creating a resonance between your coherence and theirs, strengthening both auras through that contact, and contributing to the luminosity of the whole. The ripple of that is real. The quantum field reads it as signal. What arrives next in your life is not random. It is a response. It is the reality assembling itself around the specific electromagnetic signature of your coherent, available, luminous field. It is the universe, the quantum field, the organizing intelligence of reality, recognizing the frequency you are broadcasting and sending back what belongs to it. You are chosen, not because you are special above others, because you are coherent, because you have done the work, consciously or unconsciously, of becoming the field that the teaching can find. Because something in you has been moving toward this threshold for longer than you know. And the movement has brought you here to this transmission at this moment, in this quality of receptive attention. That is not coincidence. That is quantum resonance. That is your aura doing exactly what it was designed to do, broadcasting your actual frequency to the field and drawing back what belongs to that frequency. The book is real. The choosing is real. The coherence that makes it possible is real, and it is yours. It has always been yours. You have simply been becoming conscious of it, and now you are. Your field is active. Your signal is clear. Your coherence is building with every breath you take from the heart. And what is assembling itself around that signal right now in the quantum field that surrounds you and responds to you at every moment is exactly what you have been becoming ready to receive. Stay coherent. Stay available. Stay in the quality of open, alert, luminous readiness that your field is broadcasting right now. And I want to ask you one more thing before you carry this with you. Has there been a moment, even a fleeting one, when you felt the warmth of your own field activating? When your light seemed to reach someone without a single word? When you sensed your own radiance as something real and present rather than something to be earned? Share that in the comments. Those moments, named and witnessed in community, become part of the collective field of this transmission. Your experience of your own luminosity is not small. It is signal. The book knows where to find you. It always did.